Revelation 1543. From the 28th of July 1940. Emergence of thoughts. Receptivity. From the abundance of the thoughts always that thought rises to the surface, which adapts itself to the will of the man. That is, it is the will itself cause, in which course the thinking of the man moves. The human brain is full of impressions, all seek to penetrate into the consciousness of man, but the will decides for a certain thought, and this is now spun on or also rejected, depending on whether the human spirit enters into connection with the Spirit of God, as far as spiritual results are striven for. This is by no means to be understood in such a way that man could have only such thoughts as he strives for as only man. The Spirit of God can also be active by letting the external impressions have an effect on man, so that each of the received thoughts can be of importance, as far as man strives for spiritual knowledge and thus desires enlightenment. While with an earthly-minded man only the thinking apparatus as such comes into function, thus the answers of the asked question are inconsequential, since they do not serve the spiritual advancement of the man. So every question can be asked spiritually and can also be answered spiritually, as well as the same question can also find a purely earthly answer. And so the spring from which wisdom can be imparted to man is inexhaustible, because the Spirit out of God will always and constantly hand out such, because divine wisdom is unlimited. It depends only on it, how far the human soul has formed itself, in order to be able to receive what is imparted to it by the Spirit. It must have brought itself into a state that it feels the finest vibrations of the Spirit and hears the softest sound of the heart voice in itself. The Spirit from God always wants to give and to instruct, but the receiving devices are not always so carefully adjusted that they hear the quietest vibrations. Man must willingly close his ear to the world, he must not give room to any earthly thought in him, he must not let in anything foreign as a disturbance, but he must pay attention only to the stirrings in him, which are spiritually conditioned, thus would like to be imparted to the soul by the Spirit in man. Initially, this voice in the heart of man is not easy to understand and requires the greatest attention and switching off of any earthly thought. But man can very easily reach the effortless reception of spiritual messages, if he strives to switch off all earthly thinking and desires to be instructed only by the Divine Spirit. The world with everything clinging to it disturbs the inner connection with the pure spiritual givers of divine truth. Therefore the reception will always be difficult or also completely prevented as long as earthly problems still touch man, and these cannot be completely switched off at the time when a mediation of spiritual good is to take place. It is of very special importance that all incentives of the world must be avoided, if the soul is to be promoted spiritually and man is to increase his knowledge about spiritual truths. Because every earthly distraction is a hindrance, because it makes the soul of man incapable to hear the spiritual voice, and in another way the divine wisdom cannot be imparted to man so that it is received without doubt. And therefore the separation from the world must have taken place completely, if the earth child wants to gain insight into the wonders of the divine creation, which are otherwise withheld from him according to the wise counsel of the Lord. Amen.